Okay, so today I've compiled a list of what I call the top 5 verses that um, should remind us that what we've been taught by others could possibly be wrong, or simply untrue, or partially untrue. Okay, and what's interesting is most of the time that I've heard these verses taught at church, they're generally used to keep people from, stepping outside the boundaries of that particular congregation and learning about different ideas related to Christianity. And so I've seen these verses used as the mechanism of control rather than, for people to think about what these verses mean and then apply it to, well, am I being taught the right thing or not? So I would say that these verses would apply to me and any other pastor out there that, could be slightly off the truth, really close to the truth, but potentially slightly off. So I think it's wise for us to question everything that we've been learned, or that we've learned about Jesus, about the kingdom, about Scripture, and try to figure out, try to test it all, see if it is true. I mean, truth does not have to shout from the streets that it's the truth. The truth just is, and there can only be one. All right, so the first verse, and I'm putting these in order of significance. This is my own opinion, of course, as with all this stuff, right? So Galatians chapter 1, verses 6 through 9. And Paul's writing here, he says, I marvel that you are turning away so soon from him who called you in the grace of Christ to a different gospel, which is not another. But there are some who trouble you and want to pervert the gospel of Christ. But even if we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel to you than what we had preached to you, let him be accursed. As we have said before, so now I say again, if anyone preaches another gospel to you than what you have received, let him be accursed. So, I mean, you can obviously see how a pastor could use this to hold up his particular version or flavor of Christianity and to poo-poo on all the other versions. But what I'm going to suggest to you is, what makes that pastor so confident that they've got it figured out? I mean, after all, there are many flavors of Christianity. So the second one is, Matthew 7, 14 through 20. And 14 starts, because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are few who find it. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. All right, so think about this. Most commentators, pastors will stop there and say, hey, look, you got to be careful who you listen to. And that's an element of control. And, not to say that we shouldn't be careful, but if you keep reading, it kind of gives some guidelines of how you're going to handle encountering these folks. You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from the thorn bushes or the figs from the thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits you will know them. All right, so the next one is this. 2 Timothy 4, verses 3 and 4. And Timothy, I guess it's Paul's letter to Timothy. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but according to their own desires, because they have itching ears, they will heap up for themselves teachers. And they will turn their ears away from the truth and be turned aside to fables. Now, this is just obviously this kind of just falls right in line with what I'm saying. Pastors are going to say, hey, look, what I'm telling you is the truth. Got to stay away from these other folks. But what makes them so confident that we shouldn't be careful of what they're saying? How many people really do that? How many people really put their pastor to the task? Or are we just relying upon their seminary experience or their Bible college background? Or perhaps they've got a PhD. I'm just a painter, and I got questions. And so far, I've only met a handful of people that really want to have a dialogue. So I continue. Titus 3, verses 9 through 11. But avoid foolish disputes, genealogies, contentions, and strivings about the law, for they are unprofitable and useless. Reject a divisive man after the first and second admonition, knowing that such a person is warped and sinning, being self-condemned. Now, obviously, you could use this one to say, look, I don't have to listen to this guy. He's just causing division. Well, are you really seeking truth? Isn't it okay to disagree? Isn't it okay to have a different opinion? Let's reason together. Let's sit down and see. Let's let Scripture speak for itself. Let's do interpreting together. All literature has to be interpreted. And this is just the various flavors of Christianity all boil down to various methods of interpreting what things mean. All right. Romans 16, verse 17. This is the fifth one. Now I urge you, brethren, note those who cause divisions and offenses, contrary to the doctrine which you learned, and avoid them. All right, so I got a couple more here, but you get my point. I'd like to talk about what a counterfeit is. A counterfeit is something that looks really close to the original. And a good counterfeit often gets passed off as the original. Okay, so if it was something that was so far off, you would know that it was a counterfeit, or you know that it was something different, and you would just ignore it completely. But all the different flavors of Christianity have very similar things in common. But are they all correct? Can they all be right? Can the differing opinions all be, reconciled? So my question to you is, again, is your version of Christianity a counterfeit? Maybe a really good counterfeit that it's hard to tell the difference? Have you been trained in counterfeit detection when it comes to Christianity and Jesus and the kingdom? I urge you to become a detective, to become an expert in discovering what a counterfeit is. This will change your life. Ask the questions. Seek the answers. Seek the kingdom. You'll find it. It's right there in your midst.